Hello everybody, I'm Tania Bro. Welcome to another tutorial. Today we're going to learn how to make keyboards sounding like KYGO. And so we're going to start with the following session that I'm working on, following a little bit on the classes that he has on monthly.com. And so I'm just going to show you what I did with one of the tracks that I'm working on, following those steps. Okay, so let's get into that. Okay, so we're going to start. First of all, when it comes to keyboards, I'm just going to take the freeze out. Something that I learned is that he doesn't repeat the patterns. That means he changes the way he plays the intros, the verse, and the pre-chorus or build up and drop. So as you can see over here, these are the four major parts he uses: intro, verse, build up, and drop. Now, in each of these sections, he doesn't repeat the pattern, for instance, or at least he changes a little bit on those. And I'm going to show you some examples. For instance, this is the intro, and that doesn't mean exactly that he does like that. What I'm trying to say is I kind of changed a little bit the structure to follow that guidance, because there's so many different patterns that you can use on a keyboard. Like I did use this one, and let me show you how it sounds. Okay, now I did a little adjustments for the verse, because I wanted the sound to sound like a little bit more ballad at the beginning and then become EDM later on. So something you can see from the intro is that besides using that keyboard, I'm using vocal chops, which I have over here on the bottom, just to show a little bit of what's going to come later on the song. Just like an intro of the build up drop that I use, where I use vocal chops. Now, something else that you can see on the keyboards besides how it sounds, I'm using the following, which is Grand Rhapsody from Waves, which is a very good piano that sounds very realistic, and he loves to use this one. It's called Warm Intimacy. It's great, and I love it too. So something else is I'm using this one, which is just a filter. You can do it the same thing I did with the one that is free in Logic, which is single band EQ, and follow the same steps. Just use depending on what you want to do, a low cut or a high cut, and just change these using automation. Okay, so let me take that one out, and let me show you what's going on from the intro. And just take a look at the filter, what the filter does. So it gives a better entrance. It feels like it's building, softly coming the keyboard, and that's just a great effect to use around the different parts of the song to in this case for the intro, to like put like a vase of, so it doesn't sound like harsh. The keyboard doesn't sound that harsh. So let's take a look at what it does. You can see how this one is moving up, sorry. Okay, and obviously once I get into the verse, I just skip it like that. And now over here on the verse, I kind of left the notes like that, and there's a bunch of different patterns you can use, but something you can notice is that the same pattern I use in here, I use it on the next chord, and so forth on the other ones. So whatever pattern you choose, pretty much keep it with those 4 or 5 chords that you're using for that harmony in that specific area. So once I come over here in the verse, something he likes to do is to layer your keyboards and sometimes even hi-hats or other instruments. So the reason to do that is so that the sound is stronger, has more powerness, and it doesn't feel like it's too empty, pretty much. So like this one, I just basically copy paste on the bottom and I add other keyboards into, and they have pretty much the same thing on top. It just makes this layer of these 3 keyboards in there. Now this one I believe is guitars. Let me take this one all the way here. Okay, let me click cancel, and now. So yes, so these are guitars from Contact. The snare roll comes later on, so this one is just shaker. I just use the same drum machine, so I don't have to. Pretty much I save space. So 4 on the floor, pretty much the shaker. Okay. And that's pretty much what you're listening to. Shaker, guitar, and 2 keyboards. Then we move into the build-up, and I use the same keyboard I use over here on the intro, except that I open another track, and the reason I use another track is so that I can add extra stuff into that specific keyboard. In this case, since that's a build-up, I add a volume shaper, which is basically a side chain, and you can use side chains with a compressor. I just like to use volume shaper because I think it's faster, and KYGO uses this one as well. And you have a bunch of different options in here. You just click one, and for instance this one, and then adjust it to the way you want it. Okay. So let's say I use this one, so all I have to do is click here, and you just adjust it to the way you want. That easy. So it helps optimize the space. And the same thing, for instance, I have these extra keyboards. Now let me take a look at these so you can see the pattern. It's kind of similar to what we did. We keep the same chords. Obviously, you can change the chords if you want to change the harmony of the song. I just pretty much keep it the same. I like to be very minimalistic, simplistic when I'm composing and doing arrangement, but you can always do that. Now, you can see I have the same chords, but I don't have the same rhythm, so it changes. So it gives more dynamic to the song. So let's listen to that. Okay. And same thing we did before, you keep the same pattern, like 1, 2, 3, 4 space. It will be the same over here. 1, 2, 3, 4 space. And then you see same pattern here. Sorry, this bar has the same pattern of over here. And in this case, I add like the bass note in here. And that's something you can take it, leave it, it all depends. I still have to do some adjustments. Like on the beginning, I might add bass notes, like this one right here, like a D. Maybe add another bass note, like another D over here, so it has more weight. Since I don't have a bass note, I can do that. So let me go back into the intro. So we'll have more of that lower notes. Okay, so over here I pretty much use the same pattern in this, so it matches. And then right here I have some hi-hats. let me unfreeze it so you can see exactly what am I doing in here. It's very simple. So this is the bar, and then I just copy paste. So okay, it's more like a symbol. Hi-hat, it just sounds great. And then we have this one, and it's another hi-hat. So I kind of combine these two so that the sound is not that weak. And once again, we keep layering. And the layering, you pretty much do it as you go. Sometimes you might need to add more, sometimes you don't do. So there's no wrong or right answer. It's just a matter of whenever you're listening to the song, you're kind of deciding what you want. And so that's pretty much what we're doing. And then over here on the second part, to add extra dynamic, we just add extra stuff into, in this case, this bass. And this bass basically follows the same pattern of the notes of the keyboards. Not exactly, but just a little bit. So as you can see right here, I did a little adjustment so it sounds more like that the bass is playing. So it's more jumpy. Okay, and when you combine it, and I didn't add the transitions yet. Once I add it, it will even sound better. Right here we have more keyboards, and something very essential is to kind of separate your keyboards from the build-up and your keyboards from the drop and the keyboard from the verse. Like these ones are pretty much the same ones over here. When I mean the same one, not the same pattern, but the same plugin. And the reason we do that is so that we can add extra stuff into each one of them. Like maybe the side chain on the build-up is less strong compared to the drop and so forth. So you want to have that freedom of changing the tracks, having them in a different track. And so over here I have two guitars, and then I have two keyboards to make them stronger. And right here is just vocal chops. Right here, when we come to the drop, is once again we change the rhythm a little bit, even though I believe I kind of leave it like almost the same, but that's something else you can do. I think I leave it like that. I guess I end up liking the way it sounded, so I leave it like that. And right here for the drop, we are using a bass and a sub bass, so it has more powerness. So let's take a look at the bass. So we have these. Once again, patterns important. If you have this pattern on this bar, you keep the same pattern on the other one, unless you're trying to have something like a more dynamic bass that kind of has its own melody. So something also important to consider is this one, this bass. When we EQ, I take lots of the bottom so that the sub bass can have this bass over here around the 30 all the way to the 100 to shine. And if we have the sub bass and the bass in the same frequencies, probably they are going to fight each other and it will sound messy. So over here for the sub bass, you can see that the EQ, I kind of take all this part and a little bit on the bottom. So because sometimes the sub bass or bass might have these frequencies that instead of giving a nice sound might sound dirty and moody, so we just take it out. So the mix at the end will sound cleaner and it will have more space for you to increase the EQ on something else. So that's when you have a bass and a sub bass. And something else I'm having over here is a sidechain, and I have and need to add sidechain almost to every single instrument. That way, when we put the kick has space to come through and shine. If we don't use a sidechain, first the song might not be that jumpy, like have that danceable feeling. Second, you might have interferences between the kick and the lower instruments, in this case, keyboards and bass. And not necessarily keyboards, because once I start cleaning up my keyboards, I'm going to be taking off the EQ, the low part, so that, for instance, if let's say I'm mixing now. So what I will do, like on this keyboard, let me play. Let me put analyzer on. And sorry, just have too many instruments. You can see all these frequencies right here. So what I will do, I'll clean it up, and probably it all depends. You just listen to. Let's say I take all the way this part, that way the sub bass and bass have this space to shine. And so I'm going to do that pretty much that same EQ for all the keyboards and all the instruments. That way I'll have space for the kick to get in, and the sub bass, it will be pretty much clean up with the EQ and plus the sidechain that we're going to use. So the sidechain, pretty much anytime the bass and the kick comes at the same time, it will duck one of them and pretty much will let the kick come in. So the bass goes down and the kick comes into place, and that way it will have shyness spot. And right here we have the kick. Okay, and we're using 4 in the floor, which means beat on every beginning. 3, 4. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Beat 1, 2, 3, 4. That's where the kick comes. And that's pretty much it for this song. I hope you find this helpful, and don't forget to subscribe. See you next time. Bye bye.
De unas cuantas noches, suéltame, ya terminó. Suéltame, ya terminó. Es mejor así. Te quiero olvidar. Quiero olvidarme. Que probé tus labios. Es mejor así. Te quiero olvidar. Quiero olvidarme. Que probé tus labios. Esta relación no funcionó. Tú quieres pasión y yo en cambio quiero amor. Mientras tú feliz estás, yo sufriendo estoy en soledad. Mientras tú sonríes, yo estoy triste. Seamos francos, tú no me amas, tan solo soy un capricho más, porque no sabes amar. Es mejor así.
recibido de Claudia, mi amor.
¿A dónde va?
Ya